Hi, this is Linda and my channel Tarot Mysteries. Today I wanted to share something that was asked as a question to me. I shared on my Instagram page that I was doing a rage ritual because I was very, very angry. And as we all know, anger tends to become worse over time, meaning, at least for me, it tends to like clutter together and become this big, big thing. And I know there are people who might deal with anger immediately, which is amazing, but I'm one of those persons who tends to kind of just grab it in my bag and take it with me until it becomes very big, and then I'm angry about anything. So, not good long term, right? And in general, anger is not one of those things that is very good to or nice to experience in general. But then again, it's not the only emotion there, right? And yeah, I shared that I was doing a rage release ritual, and a person asked me, and then others asked me, like, "Oh, what is that? How do you do it?" So the concept is very logical. You do whatever helps for you to release your anger. But with that being said, there are different rituals you can do. And I don't think there's like one specific ritual that would be the best for everyone. I think there are different ways and you can find yours. So, to understand that, let's maybe check some options that I've tried and noticed in the end to create my own specific rage ritual. So, what can one do to be expressing anger, right? Well, the easiest options that come to mind is, of course, scream, definitely just break some things, tear apart some things, throw things, jump, um, you know, probably put out things like, especially in words, if you scream or something, you might be screaming the ugliest things like swear words and everything. All that is already a release. But yeah, going further, not just jumping, also shaking is a great opportunity. There are people who will love to run. I've done that as well in the past, where I would be so angry that I just had to run. So that's an option, Forrest Gump style. What else could we do? There will be people who will like to write it down, and for me, that's a more subtle form of anger, but it can be that it's just so much that you just need to put it out there physically. So maybe that's an option. I've had a friend who had the anger release with just drawing with things, and then she started to break things and yell and break things apart. It was like a whole beautiful release. And what else can I say? Yeah, of course, people also are prone to fighting physically, but that's not the suggestion that I will give today. And looking a little bit further, when it comes to a rage ritual, it is meant to transform anger into power. So it's not just about putting out anger. That we know how to do. That's instinctive, right? It just happens at one point when it's too much. So that part we don't really need help with. But to make this rage ritual, you might need to just understand some things together. So to make it, you have to understand that to be able to turn it into power, often anger is very much so in the body. It's quite physical. And I remember I had many years in my, yeah, especially teenage life, young 20s, where I had a very hard time to express my anger. And yeah, I did swearing. I did, all sorts of things that I was not supposed to do. So that was already coming out through some form. But other than that, I couldn't really, like, I had a hard time to yell. I had a hard time to physically break something. And I was trying to find this way how to, put it out there. And I feel like over those years, I actually kind of swallowed so much anger inside of my body that my body was becoming more and more stiff over time. So I already mentioned to you that I had a period when I just ran that was literally my body's response after many years of, putting all that anger in me. And that was just the first thing that came. Like I went to a point where I didn't know what else to do other than run, like trying to run away from the problems, right? But by doing so, I realized, oh wow, but that physical activity, and it wasn't like running to get some kilometers. No, it was just run, as if though someone's chasing me, and yeah, getting it out there, releasing it. So that was the first thing that was helpful. I definitely understand if somebody chooses to do sports, for example, kickboxing, or I think anything that is quite physically challenging can get there. But then to do it, you have to make sure that your mind knows that you're doing it for the release. So that's a good way to do it. And after that, I discovered, because I'm a dancer and I love dancing, I discovered some specific African dances like kuduro, that comes from Angola, that is so angry. It's so mad. It actually, the texts in Portuguese mean a lot about swear words about the government's not great work. So yeah, that music already has it inside of it, and the way people dance it is also very like stiff and active, but it's a real workout. And I realized after some time that that was my anger release point, and I danced that dance quite often. So over those years, I released a lot of anger that I had gathered up until then. And that made me realize that, hey, dancing is another perfect way how to release anger. And that's a big part of my own specific method that I will do for rage rituals. Going further, of course, spirituality is also a part of my life. And knowing all these things over time, I saw that I needed a few things to add together so that I would be able to really make it a ritual for myself. So, this is a way to understand that you might already instinctively have some things in your life, maybe from ones that I've mentioned, but maybe some others that you do when you are angry. So, maybe use those and then add them together to make this ritual. So the very important part, one, it has to be in the body in some way because you need to release it from the body as well. Why? Because if you look at animals, anytime that they experience stress, especially dogs, they will shake it off. And I don't know why, but we humans don't do that. So we keep that stress in the body. And yeah, until whatever next thing happens, and then it just stores. So physically releasing it through some sort of an activity, with knowing consciously that yes, my intention is also to release, not just to dance, or not just to kickbox, not just to play basketball, blah blah. My intention is to go further. Then you can clearly do it. Of course, be mindful of other persons, especially if you're doing some sort of boxing or team sport. Understand that you don't have to become angry at them. It's rather that you try to release it from your body with the activity. So I often would suggest more activities that are on your own. At least for me, that's how I can do it. If I'm doing it with others, I have a harder time to get there. But it's because anger is such a personal thing for me. And so for me, dancing is the main. And when I do that, I will definitely add music. So, whatever else and the outside perspective can give you that safety and raise that energy so that you can allow yourself to feel the anger, it will be helpful. For me, music really gets me there. So, I will definitely allow that to be a thing. And since I've shared my opinion and method to others, some others have been laughing that some hate the sounds of their boyfriend's music. So maybe that's the music you could use, or you hate some, I don't know, drilling sounds or something. Maybe that makes you angry. Put them on. I'm not saying you have to do everything that you hate, but it can be helpful. You can at least think of it. You can imagine it, right? And that can start it because it's important to somehow start the process. And then the third part is definitely you have to find a safe space to do so. And I understand that this can be a problem for many, but I do suggest, especially if your home is a place that you feel safe at, to try to find time when you're there alone. and really release it, especially if you want to scream or do some sort of things that can be good. But for me, also, nature is a great place to go to and do so. So maybe, or I don't know, if you don't have these options, be creative. Rent a room and just do it there. Go to a hotel and do it there. Like, come on, this is for you. This is important. And then the last part of the rage rituals. Okay, now you have done it. You have, gotten everything, and you're in the rage. You're allowing it. I time it. I make sure that it's not too long. Meaning, for me, the rage rituals usually will be like 10 to maybe 15 minutes. I don't know. I can't do more. It's physically very challenging. So that can be the tops. But it will include probably a few songs in which I really rage. And I go until the point where I feel like I've actually released it, where my body has, a little bit calmed down from the tension that it has within itself. And when I move intuitively. So it's a lot of ugly dancing and jumping and ugly faces and everything. Just, allowing myself to just be angry. And then after all that, often and normal, when you have done these things, you have released, most normally, you will realize that there are other feelings beneath that. So anger tends to be this emotion that is at the upper layer, and beneath it, there are some other suppressed emotions. Why we get angry in the first place. And often it goes down to sadness or, complete grief, feeling unworthy often, feeling unloved, being in fear very, very often, and fear especially for others or yourself, or just things being too much and you not feeling like you can handle this. And all those feelings are a deeper level. And once you get there, the next level of the work starts. And that's why these release rituals can be quite long, because you get to, because I know other methods how to work with the emotions that come after, I will work with them immediately as I can. And for me, very often and lately, it has been sadness that is below it. So I will go into the next practices that are needed for the sadness release and healing feeling practices. But I'm not going to share those with this video. So I know that anger is a thing that is very, very much so online. And I very knowingly don't want to contribute to that. So I never share really from an anger standpoint. I always try to be in this more calm, balanced mode when I'm sharing. Of course, I do share my other emotions, because I do feel like some are a little bit lacking in this social media online place. For example, like proper crying and sadness. Somehow it's not here so much. I do it. Not that everyone has to do it, but just to show that, there are other levels in life. And with all that said, I know that once you get to really work with anger, it's a very powerful energy. And in all honesty, it is our power in many ways. And if we direct it without consciously and mindfully worked with it and not knowing what's underneath it, it might just be accusing and not really getting us anywhere. So instead, if you work with these energies, you understand what's beneath it, and you work with that too, then you're able to do something about it. You can understand where it comes from and what you need to change and what could be the places to go to. And that brings a very different place. That's a very powerful place, because you know yourself and you can do things now instead of just reacting to them. And it's very, very helpful to know these emotional things for yourself. This is literally emotional intelligence. Just to be mindful of what's going on in you, and being able to accept it, allow it, and with various methods to, change it if you wish. But when it comes to feelings, it's definitely a lot of allowing. They're not the ones to control so much. But the good part, yeah, is that we can definitely find a way how to be healing them. And that really creates a different level of power and authenticity out there, right? So I hope this was very helpful to you, which it has been to me. I know there are very interesting versions out there for rage rituals that will be in Wicca styles, and also like healing circles and just somatic healing practices and everywhere else. So don't be surprised if I have another version of it, but it's just because we can make our own, and it's always an interesting topic to go into. And I'm also all for anyone who needs to go to therapy for these things, because it can just be that maybe nobody taught you how to deal with anger, and that's okay. Many people don't know, and that's why we have so many trolls in the spaces around us, like here. Okay, with all that said, I wish you the most blissful growth and see you the next time. And in case you have some more questions and more tips from me that you want to know, comment below and I might just answer them in my next video.